Oh, I think I may have been no sound. Let's try that again. Hi, this is David Taylor Klaus with Mindset Mondays with DTK, and it's currently episode 11. So again, this is, the first reminder is please click share and invite your friends. I'm getting a lot of great feedback about Mindset Mondays and would love you to spread the word and bring more people in. The conversations that's going on during the week have been great. And so the best way to have more conversation is to get more human beings involved. So please click the share button and add folks in. So first things first, why are we here? So Mindset Mondays is a year-long project designed for folks who have a growth mindset or folks who want to develop one, to have a chance to play with new ideas, new concepts, and new mindsets. And then during the week in the private Facebook group, have a conversation about it. So again, please click share and invite your folks to join. All right, so let's hop on it. Today's quote, the piece I really want to share today is, look, stop being afraid of what could go wrong and focus on what could go right. This is one, God, this one is so simple. We're trained, as it were, to think about what could go wrong. It's what we're taught to do in scenario planning. And we plan for the worst so that we can handle anything that comes up. The problem is I've gotten into the habit, and something that I've juggled to break, of thinking only of what could go wrong. And that's a challenge. So stop being afraid of what could go wrong and focus on what could go right. And wow, just reading it again, this one lands for me. And I'd love to hear from folks as we go through this, what's coming up for you with this quote. But such a focus on what could go wrong. And we've talked about it before, the idea that what you put your attention on grows. Well, if we put our attention on what could go wrong, even if it's with the best of intention and planning so that we can be prepared to handle whatever goes wrong, by putting our attention on it, that grows, that possibility grows. What could go wrong, the chances increase. And that's just asking for an outcome. And it's so critical to take that moment, to shift that attention, to plan for what could go right. And I'll share why. I think nothing I have seen can kill a company faster than not preparing for success, right? What happens when all of a sudden this thing that you've been planning for and this launch you've been planning for, all of a sudden you're generating the clients and the traffic and the response that you had so wished for, but you don't have the infrastructure to handle it. The site can't handle it and your site crashes. Your customer service can't handle the responses. Your sales team can't handle the orders. And you'd be surprised how often that happens. And I think you'd be shocked by how quickly a company can buckle under the inability to respond to the positive swing. And Charlotte, I love that. Thanks. I mean, my friend Charlotte in Stuttgart is off for the next, 17, 18 days. And so the idea of taking this quote with her for the next couple of weeks, that's brilliant. Thank you. And yeah, and Rhonda, what's coming up is, I don't think I've ever thought of what could go right. What could go wrong is responsible planning. Rhonda, you've nailed it, because that's exactly what happens. We're being responsible. We're doing the right thing by planning for what could go sideways. And yet, what about the responsibility to plan for if it goes well? We know how to handle it if it goes sideways. Right? That's so hard. And Jody, you're dead on. Tough habit to break when you raise an environment, that kind of worry. Wow. Project managers are the only ones that seems to be institutionally taught to plan for if it goes badly and if it goes well. And I don't want to fanboy over project management in that regard. And yet that's baked into the system. So how do we bake that into our system? How do we shift our planning to think for the positive? How do we look at what's possible, not just what can go icky? And so where are the places where you actually have the positive fantasy, where you are thinking what happens if it all goes right? And how does it change things for you? Yes, risk management, not all bad, but I like the thinking. Thanks, bro. It is an opportunity to shift your thinking. You know, how often in law do you think, well, what happens if we win the case in less time than we think? Well, no, part of your job is to really plan for all the eventualities. Yes, all of the eventualities. One of them that you have to plan for is, what if it all goes right? And the part that, what comes up as I said that is, wow, if you don't plan for it to all go right, I know this sounds, just go with me for a minute. How are you going to notice when it's going well? If you're only looking for where things are going sideways and where the problems might be and how things can break and how things can unhinge, if you're only looking for noticing when it goes sideways so that you can respond to it, how are you going to notice when it goes well? How can you appreciate it when it goes well? How can you take advantage of it when it goes right if you're not expecting it? If you look at the hints of things progressing in your favor and all you see is, man, this is just another, where's another place where this can go wrong? And I do that. I mean, even in planning this project, even in planning Mindset Mondays, oh my God, what if you throw a party and nobody comes, right? What if you put this out there and nobody shows up? What if you put it out there and nobody shares it? And what if you invite folks for a conversation and nobody joins the conversation? And yet, if I don't plan for it going well, I can't plan for the volume, the traffic, the time it takes to be responsive, the time it takes to respond to the comments that come in. Right? How would I have noticed the groundswell? How will I keep on top of and engaged in this if I'm not planning for it to go well? Right? If you plan what can go well, the direction of your steps and activities are completely different. That's really true because you lean into, you lean into the possibility when you see things going right. If you're not paying attention to it, you can't lean in. Stop being afraid of what could go wrong and focus on what could go right. How's the energy different when you focus on what could go right? How is your energy different when you focus on what could go right? For me, it's about changing what's possible by operating from a position of power, a position of possibility. I have more energy. And that energy is different in what I'm creating, right? It shows up differently. If all I'm worried about is, oh my God, what if people don't show up? Then how am I able to be present to who does show up? Yes, when the energy changes, it changes how we treat other people. If I'm constantly afraid of how it could fail, how do I manage a team? I look for every potential failure point, constantly refocusing attention on what's not working and what's broken and what somebody hasn't done right or done perfectly. And it changes the energy, and that's contagious. That bleeds out into everybody else in the team. So energy is completely infectious. Yeah, I like that, Diane. The possibility of bringing optimism to planning, the possibility of bringing optimism to the early stages. This is not walk out with rose-colored glasses and don't pay attention to any of the signs. It's pay attention to both sides. take that minute. Yeah, a lot of companies want to hear about what's wrong. You talk about Kaizen and continuous quality improvement. You have to look at what's wrong. Yes, and you also have to look at what's working, because how can you amplify what's going well if you don't notice it? We look at things in a post-mortem idea. We look at the pluses and deltas. What are the pluses? And in that order, what's going well and what can we do so that we can do more of it? Right? And what do we want to see change? Deltas, the sign for change. So pluses and deltas. What's going well that we want to amplify and do more of? And what is it that we want to see different? What do we want to change? It's not pluses and minuses on purpose, because we're looking at what it is that we want to change. Not what is it that's broken, what is it that's blown up, what that's gone sideways, what that's failed that we want to fix. It's absolutely looking at pluses and deltas. And it changed the way we did the business planning. This is something that I learned from Larry Hart during a Vistage meeting, one of our annual planning sessions years and years ago. Changed the way I look at the annual planning. It changed, no longer looking at successes and failures. It's looking at pluses. What is it that's going well that we want to do more of? And deltas. What is it that we want to see changed? And how do we want to see it different? And that's leaving room for the positive. Start with the positive, the pluses, move to the deltas. So again, that's just an opportunity. And today is an opportunity to turn things on its head. Plan for what if it all goes right? What if it all goes right? Would you know how to handle it if it all went right? How would you notice if everything went right? You notice when it goes wrong. Are you ready to learn to notice and to plan for and to look at what will happen when it goes right? So the question I always want to play with at the end of these for you is, what will you change now? How will you change the way you plan? How will you change the way you look at things? How will you change what you focus on? Instead of focusing on the fear of what could go wrong and being afraid of what could go wrong, what will be different when you shift to focusing on what could go right? So the opportunity's there, the opportunity's yours to look this week. It's Monday everywhere, right? Whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, this is still time to plan for your week. Where can you use this during the week? Where can you focus on what could go right? So come to the Facebook group, facebook.com/group/Mindset Mondays. Come to the Facebook group and share what's come up for you and get into a conversation about airing your commitment. What will you do different this week? When you say it inside your head, it's one thing. It's planning. When you put it out in front of the world, it's a declaration. It's amazing how much more powerful it is to declare the change and the commitments you make. It will allow you to move forward. I was going to say, Len, I imagine you do have far more than a few ideas. So please come to facebook.com/group/Mindset Mondays. Share your thinking and engage in conversation with other folk around stop being afraid of what could go wrong and focus on what could go right. And until next week, I look forward to hearing what mindset you'll choose. Until then, be well.